Yo, welcome into Imagi Fantasy Football. Today we're going to be doing some fantasy wide receiver football tiers. This is going to be a long video today, so like grab a drink, get a snack or something, like get comfortable. So today, first off, it's going to start. We have a couple of guys already in relevant for fantasy. These guys are just not going to have any fantasy relevance. They don't even deserve doing the waiver wire fodder here. They're just not going to have any resemblance of anything to do with fantasy this year. I just put them in. So now let's just start. Start off with Chase Claypool. That's going to start us off with.
I'll put him in flex. I think that offense is kind of crowded, especially with the addition of Najee Harris. So I think he'll be a fine flex.
Anyone else have anything to say?
No, I put him at flex too.
Yep.
I think he has some solid upside this year.
Yeah.
Touchdowns from last year. He had double-digit touchdowns. So if those go up, potentially he could move up to the wide receiver too. Go on. Rohan with Marquise Brown.
This guy's had every opportunity to shine and he just hasn't done it yet. So I'm gonna put him on my bench. Maybe, yeah, he's gonna have a stick on my bench. Nowhere else.
Yeah, no, Marquise Brown is garbage. I hate him so much because I got excited last season. There's reports that he put on 23 pounds of muscle. I don't know where he put that muscle, but it clearly didn't help. The guy can't get any separation. He has problems with drops, and he's just not a good receiver. He every summer you see him on like sand football fields with Lamar Jackson. They're working out. Clearly does not help at all because he can't get open. And if you're going to be a wide receiver, that's the one thing you have to do. That's your job, to get open. And even when this guy's open, he can't catch the balls. Like Lamar Jackson, when he's rolling at the pocket and throws, hits him in the hands, he drops it. Just an embarrassing player. I don't like this. I'm not even going to pick him this year.
Okay. Yeah, the Ravens also brought in a couple guys like Sammy Watkins, Rashad Bateman. They drafted Tylen Wallace in the fourth round. So, he's not the only guy there. I definitely see him being a bench wide receiver. Could potentially fall to waiver wire fodder, honestly. Odell for Tree this year.
I like Odell this year. That every year I like Odell because he's coming back. He's so talented, right? He's very talented. Every year I like Odell. I gotta put him at wide receiver too for this year. Browns offense is back. I put him at a low end wide receiver too. He'd be like a low end, but I really like Odell.
I like that streak.
Yeah,
I agree with it.
No, I disagree.
Yeah, me too. I'd struggle to put him at flex, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, I'd put him as perfectly as probably a mid-tier flex, to be honest with you. I mean, I think last year
it's Odell Beckham Jr. Bro.
So what?
We said this about
he's
okay,
a big
but this
name.
has been said about this guy for the last 2 years. Last year, even when he was
3
healthy, he
years.
was not very productive for anything besides 2 games.
There's no way
he's
he's
not
more than a
injured.
flex.
They're a
There's no way.
run-first offense this year.
Yeah, and
There's no way
run
they're-
first offense.
They're not
And
gonna go
that sets
through-
up the play action. Play action, Odell on the deep shots. We saw it in the
Oh,
first
yeah.
2 games.
They'll see
Like,
once every 3
No,
games.
the argument that it's Odell Beckham Jr. can no longer be used for this guy because that
Exactly,
offense just does not give him enough opportunity to show what he's capable of.
All right.
I mean, they're going to be running the ball damn near every play. I mean, last year before that, the year before that full year, I think he was a wide receiver 30 on a point per game basis or something like that. Just, I don't see how he'd be anything more than a flex this year.
I agree. But, if we are majority, I will put him in the wide receiver too. But
Yeah.
I just have to disagree there. He's more like a middling flex. He's going to be a disappoint. He's going to disappoint this year. Even at his ADP, what is it, like 5th, 6th round? There's no way he's going to live up to that.
No way he lives up to that.
I have
don't
Odell
see it.
over like DJ
If you
Chark.
have Odell as your wide receiver too, you've done something wrong this year. That's all I've got to say. That's what it. All right.
Yeah, or you're playing in a 20-team league.
Yeah, or that, but
Oh.
Jarvis Landry for Arjun.
Jarvis Landry, honestly, he's very similar to Odell in my opinion. So I'm going to put Jarvis probably as a lower end flex just because he is obviously, as we know, not as talented as Odell is. But again, like we were saying, same thing with Odell. The Browns offense is just too run heavy for Odell and Jarvis to really see consistent opportunities. Baker Mayfield, he obviously took a step forward last year, but still not nearly the passer we'd want to be for a guy who we'd expect to have a good season. So yeah, Jarvis, I'd keep him as a flex for now. I mean, maybe he becomes – I could see him becoming a bench wide receiver by the end of the year, to be honest with you. But for now, I'll keep him as a flex, but I'll be at a lower-end flex.
There's nothing really stopping him from becoming the wide receiver 1 in Cleveland like he has been the past 2 years. But,
No,
you
but
know,
yeah, even with that role as wide receiver one in Cleveland, then I mean,
yeah,
would
it's
he be
not going to
more
be
than a
that
flex?
valuable. Yeah, it
Yeah.
won't be that valuable in fantasy. All right, next up, I'm going to do Tyler Boyd. Tyler Boyd this year, I'm going to put him in flex. You know, he has been a wide receiver 2 in years past, but Jamar Chase is there now. Joe Burrow, I don't think he's completely healthy yet. And then, you know, Tyler Boyd, I don't know if he's really going to get as many targets as he has in years past because of the new, because of Jamar Chase coming in. Next up, we have T. Higgins for Dant.
I'll put him at a high end flex. I think with Joe Burrow, we don't really know at this point in the offseason. We don't know. I could see T. Higgins going to a wide receiver 2, but T. Higgins has that chemistry with Jamar Chase. I think Jamar Chase will be the wide receiver 1 in that offense, but I think T will see more targets than Tyler Boyd. But I don't at this point right now. I don't see him being more than a high end flex.
You mean just to make sure? You mean Joe Burrow has a connection with
Oh,
Jamar Chase, right? Not T.
yeah,
Higgins.
Joe Burrow. Yeah, Joe Burrow.
T. Higgins had a great year last year with Joe Burrow. Like, he was a very good wide receiver 2 last year, and that was with AJ Green still in the offense.
Yeah, but now you add in Jamar Chase. And then
Offensive line is still
I think
not
you can
that
just
great.
replace the targets. But, you know, I guess you can put him as flex. I'd really feel comfortable with him. Like, if he was my wide receiver 2, that means I have elite running backs. You know, that's what we target in drafts. So even if he is your wide receiver 2, that's nothing to complain about. All right, next up, we have Stephon Diggs. Rohan is going to go over him.
Yeah, I think Diggs is. I think we all can agree elite wide receiver 1 in that Bills offense. He just demanded so many touches last year, and Josh Allen loves throwing him the ball. And the offense is already so successful as well. I don't see them changing anything from last year. I think he'll easily repeat as an elite wide receiver 1, bearing injury.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Nothing really stopping him. Nothing really changed from last year. Hey, Cole Beasley. Sheree, you got anything to say?
I don't know if Cole Beasley's going to play this year. He refused to get vaccinated, so
no, he's gonna
you don't
play.
know.
He's gonna play.
All right, he's a
Assuming he plays, where you put him.
assuming he plays, he's a flex. Yeah, nothing much to say there. He's just a flex.
Solid PPR guy, you know, gets a bunch of targets in the Bills offense that throws the ball so much. He's a solid flex. Like in a PPR league, in a standard league, he's waiver wire fodder, to be quite honest with you. But, you know, we move. Devontae Parker, Arjun.
Devontae Parker is he's a guy who's a bit tough to rank this year. You know, the Dolphins offense, we don't know what that's going to look like this year. How much has Tua improved going into his second year? So, and with the addition of Will Fuller too, I'm going to start Parker as a bench wide receiver. But I mean, if you can get him as a bench wide receiver, I'd consider him to be a very good bench wide receiver for you. A guy who can definitely be a bye week fill-in, an injury fill-in. But just because of how much uncertainty surrounds that offense, like with the addition of Will Fuller, and I mean, how is Tua going to be next year? I would keep him for now as bench wide receiver.
Anything else more to say? Does anyone have something they want to add?
No,
No, I think
that
that's
makes
fair
sense.
for him.
Yeah.
Next up, we got Tyreek Hill, and you know, there's not really a lot to say here. He's my wide receiver 1 on the year, even though the uncertainty with Devontae Adams. He has elite upside, and honestly, last year he showed he has a floor. Scored 15 touchdowns. He had that unbelievable performance against the Bucs, 40 points in the first quarter. You know, if you have Tyreek Hill as your wide receiver, there's nothing to complain about. Don gonna have Jamison Crowder.
I mean, Jameson Crowder was nice early last year. There's a quarterback change now. They drafted Elijah Moore. Denzel Mims is due for a resurgence. I think he has talent. I'd put him as a bench wide receiver.
Agree with that one. Anyone have anything they want to say? Jamison
I
Crowder.
like that.
Yeah, I like that.
Then we have Denzel Mims.
With Denzel Mims, like Don was saying, he is due for a breakout season and the new quarterback and everything, but he's still not. He hasn't proved himself enough. If you can get him, if you want him in the late rounds, take him. But he's a very end of your bench wide receivers.
Yeah, I honestly could see him being waiver wire fodder.
Yeah,
there's
that
a lot of players on that Jets offense right now, but if you want to take a shot at Denzel Mims, I guess you can. There's been reports that he's running with the second team now, but who knows? Might break out. Rohan, want to go over Brandon Cooks?
Yeah. So with Cooks, there's so much uncertainty in that offense, but Will Fuller did leave. So he's the clear alpha dog in that offense, but the offense will probably be terrible because if Watson isn't there, I mean, Tyrod Taylor is going to run the offense. Don't have any strong points at all. So I would honestly put him at waiver wire fodder, maybe bench, but I would put him on the waiver wire.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah, I
can't
don't
agree
know
with
about
that.
No.
I completely disagree too. I would put Cooks as probably a flex and a
Yeah,
middling
me
flex as
too.
well because
With
he's still a
Tyrod
very
Taylor and no
he's still a
offensive
Yes,
line.
he's
they're
still a
going to
talented
be.
player, and he's still the number one receiver in an offense that's
I
going to be
just-
losing a lot of games, and it's going to be
I would
down in
not-
most of their games.
They're going to be
so.
down probably the entire game. Well, and there's
Yeah.
no one else in that offense. Who's they going to do? Randall Cobb, bro? Come on now.
I
Randall
mean,
Cobb.
I could just never
Yeah.
start this guy. I just
mean,
wouldn't trust it. I don't trust that offense. I don't trust that team.
I wouldn't
I mean-
like starting him at flex, but I mean,
Yeah.
If you have to.
It's-
He's not a set it
yeah.
and forget it flex.
Would
He's
you
not
would you
that kind
start
of
him?
guy.
Would you start Brandon Cooks over Marquise Brown?
No,
no,
for me,
Yes.
no.
no.
What?
Yes, yeah.
I don't. I mean,
Yes,
I
I
trust the
would too.
Ravens offense. I trust
Yeah.
like
You
actual
trust the
top-
Ravens?
Yeah, we
passing
trust the
offense?
Ravens
I do,
offense.
I
We
do,
trust
yeah.
I trust their running game. I trust Lamar Jackson, but I don't trust Marquise Brown
No,
to
Exactly.
get enough targets.
I mean,
and
how
to
can you-
touch the ball when he does it?
We're just going off last year because I mean, Brandon Cooks, his QB is gone. We're talking about Tyrod Taylor, Brian Hoyer. People like this are going to be.
Tyrod Taylor's going to throw for more yards than Lamar this year.
I don't know. I
Oh,
don't.
I
no,
don't
no,
know.
I don't
No,
know.
no. That's not
that's not
true.
it.
Arjun go?
That
I don't-
cannot be true.
I don't even know why we think
Pause it. Where'd Arjun go?
Oh, don't say that in the middle.
Rohan, where would you put Brandon Cooks?
Yeah, with Cooks, I don't like his situation. I don't like that team. I mean, he might be the only guy there, but still, I think at best he's a bench wide receiver.
Put him ahead of Marquise Brown, though, because that's kind of disrespectful. All right, we got Will Fuller coming up next for John.
Yeah, Fuller. I mean, he should be the wide receiver one in that Dolphins offense, just based on how talented he is. So I would call him a flex for now. I mean, we don't know how Tua is going to be in his sophomore season, and there is a lot of competition for targets there in Miami with Devontae Parker, Preston Williams, Mike Gesicki still around. So Fuller should be the lead target hog out of that bunch. So I would call him a flex. And I mean, who knows? Maybe Tua takes a big step up. Fuller could become a wide receiver too by the end of the year.
Portland Sutton is the next guy up, and I think he's right there in the wide receiver two category. 2 years ago, before he got injured last year, he had a breakout season in his sophomore year. He had over 1,000 yards. He was scoring. That was more with Joe Flacco, but I think he will just continue this year more of what he did this sophomore season. Then Jamar Chase, Rohan. You want to go into Jamar Chase?
Yeah, sure. So Jamar Chase, I mean, Joe Burrow's old teammate, coming into an offense with already two established receivers and an established running back. I feel like he'll be the deep threat in this offense. Probably I would start him out as a flex just because he was drafted so high. Burrow clearly has some chemistry with him, but I would start him as a flex with potential for more.
So you think Jamar Chase is under Odell?
Right now, that's a fair point. I would put them close, but yes, I
There's
would
not
put.
there's not a 1 tier difference between these two guys. I'd honestly have
Yeah.
Jamar than
I
Yeah,
mean,
but
no,
like
no, I
look
would
at
put-
Odell's situation. Look at Jamar's
Odell is
situation.
in the worst situation.
Yeah,
possible.
Jamar's in an
I mean,
offense. No,
Jamar Chase's situation is better than Odell's situation. Jamar's
Yeah.
playing with the guy in college who he put up historic numbers with. And I mean, now Burrow was clearly lobbying for them to draft Chase over an O-lineman because that's how much he believes in Chase, how much he thinks that how unbelievable he believes him and Chase can be.
Exactly.
So I would probably start Chase off as a low-end wide receiver too, but it would not surprise me at all if he became a high-end wide receiver too by the end of the year.
As much as I love Odell, I mean, these guys, they have a bad O-line, and they picked him over guys like Sewell, right? And
Exactly.
I think right now, Odell, I love Odell, but he's coming off an ACL tear. I think right now, Jamar is definitely better than him.
Exactly.
I put him at wide
So I
receiver.
think it would be fair not only to like put Jamar Chase. I think it would be fair to move Odell down to flex, but
I feel
Yeah,
like
I agree.
Odell is in that low wide receiver 2 area. I mean, whereas
Yeah.
Jamar.
How do you start Odell as your wide receiver too? Like, I don't understand how you leave a draft with
But
Odell
I
as your
think
wide
he's a
receiver.
solid flex. If you get
He's-
Odell as your
Why
flex,
is he
that's
in the
Yeah,
wide receiver
yeah,
2
yeah.
category?
Move Odell down.
Yeah,
But
we can put him
Jamar,
as a
I
flex.
don't like Jamar. Because Joe, the Bengals offense is the exact same situation as last year, except right now you do not have AJ Green, and you replace him with Jamar Chase. And Jamar Chase is obviously way better than AJ Green. It's probably like astronomically better than AJ Green, but you still have 3 wide receivers competing for targets in that offense, and you have Joe
It's a
Mixon there.
pass-heavy team.
Yeah, it's an offense
they're
that
gonna
runs
be
3
like
wide
6
sets a
or
lot.
7. They could lead the league in pass attempts this year.
Exactly.
That's not out of
yeah.
the question.
I mean,
I
but
don't know, I
it's
just don't trust
interesting because Jamar is clearly like the deep guy, but Burrow's coming off a
Is he
big
though?
surgery.
Because
Dude,
there's-
is he the deep guy? I mean, Jamar
Yeah,
caught like
exactly.
85 passes with Burrow in his final year at LSU. I mean,
But
There's
Like,
also
I-
stuff reports
Okay,
coming out
but
that he's
in-
taking on for the slot.
my
Okay, but
expectation for
Then where
Jamar
would
is that
Boyd
he's
go? Is Boyd not in the slot?
Yeah, Boyd probably would move outside or something. Boyd isn't.
I can't
just
see that
one
happening.
dimensional.
I feel like
I don't think if
They're
Boyd
gonna
moves
want to give
outside, it's
Jamar
gonna be
Chase.
bad.
Okay, at the end of the day, they're gonna want to give more experience to Jamar Chase because Tyler Boyd is not gonna be in their long-term plans. Jamar
And-
Chase is gonna be
yeah.
a
What about
focal point
T?
of their offense for years to come.
And I think Chase is going to step in, and honestly, I think he'll be the wide receiver 1 from day 1 in that offense, just because of the
Right.
chemistry with him and Burrow, and because of his undeniable talent. He was
Let's
drafted
go
at
to
5th
DJ Chark
overall.
though.
So
He's insanely
Wow.
talented.
Let's start moving on though. We've stayed on
Yeah.
Chase for too long. Hey, Shree, you want to talk about DJ Chark?
DJ Chark is a flex, a high-end flex, low-end wide receiver 2. Depends on how T-Law gets in the offense.
I put him in the flex. Just
I-
no way to put him in wide receiver 2 for me. I just leave him
Yeah.
flex.
Yeah, flex. I agree.
Deontay Johnson, Vedant. comments about
He's a solid wide receiver too. I think if he can
Mhm.
stop those drops and become like the alpha. I mean, I think he's already the alpha at this point in the offseason, but just limit the drops and we'll see what Ben does this year. But solid
Hey.
wide receiver too.
I
He was a
agree.
wide receiver 1 at times last year. Like when he was healthy, we were looking at Deontay Johnson. Oh, he's like a top 10, top 12 type of guy just because of the amount of targets he received in the Steelers offense. Will the targets go down this year? Maybe. I don't know. They got drafted Najee Harris, but their offensive line is a lot worse. But we'll see. I think he's right there in that wide receiver 2 right now. Next up, we have Sammy Watkins, the week 1 warrior. Arjun.
Sammy Watkins, I think he's a bench wide receiver for sure. I mean, moving into the Ravens, run heavy offense. I don't see how Watkins would be anything more than a bench wide receiver. I mean, especially now they drafted who is it that they drafted? Rashad Bateman, and they've already got Marquise Brown. They've got a great group of running backs. Lamar Jackson loves to run, as we know. So, and Mark Andrews, of course, still there. So, yeah, I'd keep Watkins as a
You'd
bench wide receiver.
roster Sammy Watkins? Would
Yes.
you roster Sammy Watkins?
I would.
Yeah,
roster
I
him.
definitely
If I'm
roster-
rostering Marquise Brown, I'm definitely rostering Mark.
Yeah, I
Sammy
would definitely
Watkins.
roster Sammy Watkins just because what we've seen from him in the past. I mean, on the Chiefs, he
Okay.
had a couple great games. I mean,
Alright.
even on the Bills, he was great. So yeah, I'd roster him, but definitely keep him on your bench.
So this looks like Keelan Cole, but we're not going to talk about Keelan Cole. But something I do notice is that Laviska Shenault isn't on here. So I'm going to go with this as Laviska Shenault. And Laviska Shenault this year, I think honestly, he fits right here into this flex category with like Jarvis Landry, Colby's. I think he could break out this year. After he's a beast after the catch. After the catch, he is unbelievable. And if you get the ball in his hands, Laviska Shenault can make big things happen. I like Laviska this year.
I just can't start him as a flex to start the year. I mean,
Can't
he's
start
got to
him.
start. He's going to be
Week
on.
one.
If you take him, I feel like he has to start on like majority of fantasy owners' benches, and then we'll see. But I feel like flex is his ceiling. That's just me. But
He's
Yeah.
steadily moving up draft boards. We've
Yeah,
seen
I agree with Nav. I think Chenault's going to start probably as a low end flex, but I mean, this offseason, has there been any report coming out of Jacksonville with anything bad to say about Laviska Shenault? I think I've only heard good things
I mean, you're not going to hear a
Jacksonville
bad
about-
report.
yeah, I mean,
Well,
Well, no,
look at what happened to
No,
Justin
no.
Tucker.
Let me continue.
I mean,
the thing is, what I'm saying is there's just been so many good reports about Laviska Shenault and nothing negative at all. I mean, you hear negative reports about other players. I mean, I think I saw one today about Saquon Barkley saying that he might not be ready for training camp. So,
I mean,
but
yeah,
with
but
Shenault,
We're
has just been, he looks better. He looks more explosive. He's ready for a breakout season. And now Trevor Lawrence, a quarterback, I don't see how. I think he's definitely going to start probably as a low end flex, or good bench receiver, but definitely the potential for a lot more.
Okay. Next up, we have AJ Brown, Rohan.
AJ Brown for me, he would have been an elite wide receiver one. Say Julio didn't come, but with Julio here, he's a firm wide receiver one. I don't know if I can put him at elite, but I wouldn't know if low is the word for it either. Just like a firm one. You set and forget for him. I would just have to put him at low though, just because.
Yeah, keep the top of low wide receiver one.
Yeah.
All right, next up, CD Lamb, Shrejus.
I like CD Lamb as right now he's a high wide receiver too, but I think he could definitely break out and be a low wide receiver one or maybe even elite.
Yeah, me too. He definitely could break out this year. And like Arjun had a bold prediction about him coming in the top 10. I could definitely see that happening too.
Yeah.
Make sure you guys go check out that video.
Next up we have Corey Davis, Vedant.
I like Corey Davis's talent, but that offense, I don't know how much better it's going to be. New quarterback, so I'd put him bench. Yeah, if Jameson and Denzel Mims are bench, then he has to also be on the bench.
Well, I mean, he is a wide receiver one in that offense. He has a lot of money to join the Jets. We'll see. It is the Jets at the end of the day. Arjun, anything to say about Deebo Samuel?
I think Deebo Samuel, he's a very talented player, so definitely a bench wide receiver for now, though. Just because the uncertainty with the 49ers quarterback situation, who's going to start Garoppolo or Trey Lance. And also they've got two other great pass catchers, Kittle, Brandon Ayuk, and we also know the 49ers love to run the ball. So I definitely start him as a bench wide receiver, but he could absolutely be a flex for you some weeks and maybe could become a set it, forget it flex by the end of the year.
To be honest, looking at the guys that we already have in the flex category, like Cole Beasley, Laviska, Jarvis, I'd rather have Deebo than those guys.
Yeah, Deebo is definitely, in my opinion, Deebo is a flex. I mean, unless I'm wrong, I still think he's the wide receiver one on the offense, listed as one on the depth chart at least. And so, yeah, he's definitely a flex.
I mean, I think I'd honestly probably rather have guys like that we've got there, like Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins, probably maybe even Odell and Cole Beasley over Deebo. So that's why I would just start him as a bench wide receiver. Cole Beasley was very consistent last year. I mean, he was giving up very consistent, underrated production last year.
They added Emmanuel Sanders.
Yeah, I would easily take Deebo over Beasley any day of the week. I think Deebo's way more.
Beasley's falling under the radar last year with his production.
But Emmanuel's the wide receiver. Gabriel Davis is starting to emerge.
Well, Cole Beasley's still going to be manning the slot in that offense. I mean, I don't think that's going to be going anywhere.
All right.
Yeah, absolutely. Why would he not?
Emmanuel Sanders.
I just don't think have him over.
I mean, Cole Beasley's. I mean, he's one of the best slot receivers in the NFL.
I think Deebo has some upside this year.
Absolutely does.
Brandon Ayuk, and I think he's just right there in that wide receiver 2 category. I feel like last year he was a wide receiver. He was a low wide receiver 1 during stretches when he was healthy. Obviously, health is a concern with most 49ers players in general. I don't know what's going on in San Francisco. Their medical staff had some problems going on there. Brandon Ayuk, he's so solid. Like you can just set it and forget it as your wide receiver 2. If you started running backs with tight ends quarterback. I don't have a problem with him as my wide receiver 2. He's a very solid guy. He's a deep threat, and he can do stuff after the catch. So, he was a wide receiver. DK Metcalf, Rohan.
For me, with DK, even with the Seahawks looking to run the ball more, just play a safer offense, I still put DK in my elite wide receiver 1 category. I feel like he's similar to AJ Brown. But if I had to choose between AJ Brown or DK, I'd probably take DK. So that's why I'd have to put him elite wide receiver 1.
Personally, I'd put him in the low wide receiver. I'd rather have AJ Brown than have DK Metcalf on my team. DK was super inconsistent at the end of the year. Like as soon as Russell Wilson started throwing the ball less and the Seahawks started to run the ball more, he was ranked in the wide receiver 20. He wasn't really that good for fantasy. He was a low wide receiver 2 flex type option. I put him as.
Go ahead.
I put him as a low wide receiver 1 personally, but what does everyone else think?
I mean,
I'd call him an elite wide receiver 1.
DK Metcalf does have a problem with fumbling the ball at the back of the end zone and losing 8 fantasy points, so can't really trust him. I put him a low wide receiver 1.
I just
Okay.
don't see him
Vedant,
in the same.
tiebreaker.
I just don't see him in the same tier as Diggs and Tyreek Hill and guys like Hopkins. So I'd put low wide receiver.
I see that. All right, 3-2, I guess. DK Metcalf, low wide receiver. But, if he is your wide receiver one, there's no problem with that.
Yeah, absolutely no
DK
problem.
Metcalf is very solid. Next up, we have Tyler Lockett, Tree.
Lockett, he had a great season last year, but it's just not sustainable, especially with the Seahawks switching to a more run-heavy offense. They're not going to let Russ cook as much, and Lockett had a lot of his fantasy points in like 2-3 games that really boosted. And like, if you want to have, I'd put him at flex right now, top of flex or bottom of wide receiver 2. I actually would put him at bottom of wide receiver 2, because it's just that if you want the guy that's going to give you a consistent like 13, 15 PPR points, Lockett might not be your guy.
Yep.
Vedant, you a big Robert Woods fan this year? What's good with you?
I've been a Robert Woods fan in the past. I think Cup's gonna be better than him this year, but I think I'd put him in wide receiver 2.
I put him like right near CD.
Yeah, right there.
Super,
That's perfect.
super consistent, very solid.
Yeah.
Nothing. He's always underrated too. I like Robert Woods. Super Cup, Arjun. What you got to say?
So Don was saying he thinks Woods will be a little bit worse than Cup this year. I disagree. I think Woods will have a better season than Cup, but Cup he's a great player. I'd put Cup as a wide receiver 2 for sure, with that improved offense with Matthew Stafford now at the helm.
Yep, I agree. And then next up, I'm gonna D-Hop and DeAndre Hopkins. Like, what else are you gonna do? He has to go in elite wide receiver 1. He's just a model of consistency year after year. Only thing is, I guess his touchdowns could go up. He's not biggest touchdown scorer, but if you're a wide receiver 1, you're very happy with that.
Mm-hmm.
And next up, we have Allen Robinson.
I think that's yours.
Yeah, Rohan.
Oh, okay. For me, I put Allen Robinson low wide receiver 1. I feel like he's just better than all the guys at wide receiver 2, but he's not on that elite level. So low wide receiver 1 for me.
I agree.
Yeah, me too.
3, you have Henry Ruggs.
I really like Henry Ruggs. Despite the Raiders switching to a run-heavy offense, he's the wide receiver 1 there. No more Nelson Aguilar. No more anybody else. Darren Waller's gonna cut into targets, but I feel like Henry Ruggs gonna be that deep threat, that exciting guy to watch. So I'll put him middle of flex, right next to maybe DJ Chark, but he definitely has a lot of upside.
To be honest, I'd rather not start Henry Ruggs based on what we've seen. We haven't
me too.
really seen much consistency from him. He's not gotten in the end zone. When he gets in the end zone, it's a huge play, and you love the fantasy performance. But to be honest, I'd rather have him as a bench wide receiver. I don't want to start him until we can see some consistency.
Yeah,
agreed.
I agree.
Yeah. Vedant, Christian Kirk.
I think he might be the first player to enter fodder. I just don't know if he's rosterable. They added, as bad as AJ Green was last year, they did add him to the team. They drafted Rondale Moore. I just don't see him being rosterable this year.
Agreed.
I just want to add, can we move Denzel Mims into waiver wire fodder?
I agree.
I don't think he's bench wide receiver.
I guess.
I would not roster
sure.
Denzel Mims either.
Roster.
I wouldn't roster Sammy Watkins, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I wouldn't roster Sammy Watkins.
If you're rostering Marquise Brown,
No,
you
Yeah,
roster
I would
Sammy
Marquise
Watkins.
Brown- Marquise Brown has talent, bro. He's just bad.
Does
but
he?
has
Sammy
What
Marquise
talent?
Brown-
What is he good at? I would love to
Marquise
know.
Brown
He has
is-
so
Alright,
much speed.
If
Marquise
you're
Brown is
saying,
looking like the second coming of John Ross, if you ask me.
And John Ross got injured when? What did John Ross do?
no, he's saying he's
Nothing,
as
yeah.
bad as John Ross.
Oh, okay.
I mean, they
Right.
both have got speed. I mean, Brown last year, he did struggle with drops at times. So I think Watkins, you got to roster him. He's not that much worse than Marquise Brown, if at all.
Exactly.
Arjun, you're gonna go over Devontae Adams, but be sure to talk about Aaron Rodgers. Both.
Yeah. So just even without Rodgers, he's still an elite wide receiver one. It just with Rodgers, I would probably have Adams as the best wide receiver in fantasy football. Without him, I'd probably have him behind those three guys. But just because of his talent alone, best route runner in football, he's got great hands. So he's definitely an elite wide receiver one. Just because of the uncertainty of Rodgers, we don't know. I mean, again, with Rodgers, he's the best wide receiver in fantasy football, and I mean it's close, but I mean I still think that it's very easily him with Rodgers. But without him, I'd rather guys like Hill, Diggs, both of them over him. But yeah, still under the wide receiver one, regardless of whether or not Rodgers is there, because he's just going to demand so many targets, and he's so talented that he's going to turn those into big plays a lot.
Please stop talking. All right. I hate you talk so much, bro.
Bro, you literally specified.
Yeah,
make
but
sure to talk about Rodgers.
you just kept going on.
Dude, yeah.
Well, you specified it. Like I'm obviously
okay.
going to talk
It's
about
okay.
Rodgers.
We physically can't talk about Devontae Adams for 2 minutes.
You specify. Like I'm obviously going to mention Rodgers,
Yeah,
but you
you-
then
All
specified
right,
it as
move
like
on.
emphasis.
Move on. Stop.
Three,
Wait,
don't
give
let
it
this
3
out
second
with-
gap. Give it 3 second gap before you start talking again.
Okay. Next up, we have Alan Lazard, and I think he just belongs in waiver wire fodder. There's really not much there with him. I guess he's a wide receiver 2 in that Packers offense, but they did draft Amari Rodgers. Alan Lazard, he's not anything special, really. I wouldn't really feel good about rostering him, so I just keep him. Adam Thielen, Rohan, what you got to say about him?
Others might not feel the same. I put him as a wide receiver 2, nothing more, nothing less. I think you can I feel like you can start him as your wide receiver 2, and you can feel confident. I mean, he's not a solid wide receiver. Yeah, I would say he's a solid wide receiver 2. He's not a high, he's not a low. He's just right in the middle for me.
Yeah, I agree with most of what you're saying, but you said like something like you can't go lower, and you also said like you can forget about it. I don't think you can really forget about Adam Thielen. I was the owner for him last year for the worst weeks possible, and it was just disappointing just watching him play, and he could definitely bust. He's very easy, so I think he could be a bust this year, one of the bust candidates.
I mean, maybe, but I feel like wide receiver 2 is solid for him. In the past he was wide receiver 1, but yeah, I feel like wide receiver 2 is good for him.
Yeah. Justin Jefferson is up next. 3.
Low wide receiver 1 for this guy. He broke out. He's great, and maybe he'll be elite this year, but low wide receiver to start off.
Yep.
Vedant, it's Marvin Jones.
Bench wide receiver. There's just too many weird things going on in Jacksonville. I don't trust any of those guys, so I'd go bench.
Good.
Nothing more to say there. All right, Arjun, you got Kenny Golladay here.
I'd put Golladay at the bottom of the wide receiver 2 tier with the move to New York now, because I don't trust Daniel Jones very much to take a step forward. And with the return of Barkley, there's just too many pieces in that offense for him to really be much more than a low on wide receiver 2, in my opinion.
Yeah, I like Kenny Golladay as a talent. He's a top 10 talent in the league. I don't think there's really much question about that. He's probably the best contested catch receivers in the league. He doesn't even need that elite route running. He doesn't have it, but he doesn't need it because of his contested catch rate. Daniel Jones can deliver a couple of air balls, air meals, but Kenny Golladay has the talent to offset that, I think. Darnell Mooney. Darnell Mooney is just a bench wide receiver. I mean, maybe he moves up into flex later in the year, but for right now, with Andy Dalton there, Darnell Mooney is just going to be a bench wide receiver.
Yep.
Then Rohan gets Michael Thomas.
I feel like this guy, he's right on the edge of low wide receiver 1 to wide receiver 2. Don't really know what's going to happen with the QB situation. For me, I feel more confident with him as my high wide receiver 2. That's just me.
I think personally that if you was your wide receiver 1, that probably means you start out with 2 running backs.
Mm-hmm.
And if you start with 2 running backs and Michael Thomas, I think that's a phenomenal start. So I'd consider him to be like a low wide receiver 1. Anyone?
No, I agree with that. I agree.
Yeah, low
As
wide
much as I
receiver
hate him,
Yeah.
can't be moved down.
Yeah.
Nelson Aguilar, Shri.
Nelson Aguilar on the Patriots now. haven't seen anything. Don't really know what's going on there. Too many targets. Too like Damian Harris. I maybe wouldn't roster him, but if you want to, I put him at the end of bench wide receiver.
This is going to be a run first team, and they signed the 2 tight ends they're gonna garner a lot of targets. So, Emmanuel Sanders for Vedant.
I mean, he was good in New Orleans last year. He's going to the Buffalo Bills now. John Brown left, so he's probably gonna just slip into that role. Bench wide receiver.
Wide receiver, solid there. Arjun, you get Mike Evans.
Mike Evans, I'd call him a wide receiver 2, probably a mid to low end wide receiver 2, just because he's so dependent on touchdowns for a lot of his production, and because they've got Godwin and AB in that offense. So yeah, wide receiver 2 for Evans.
Anyone disagree?
I think that's good for him.
Yeah, that's good.
I think that's a solid placement. Next up, we have Chris Godwin, and I think he was drafted as an elite wide receiver 1 last year, but I think this year his draft position is more realistic. It's gonna be like mid to high wide receiver 2. I mean, he's gonna be like the main target in the Buccaneers offense. He's gonna get the most targets, probably the most yards. He probably won't score as many touchdowns, but I don't think double-digit touchdowns is out of the question for Chris Godwin this year.
Yep.
Next up, we got Robbie Anderson, who we at Imagi think he's one of the biggest sleepers in fantasy this year. Rohan.
I feel like with the move with Sam Darnold coming over to Carolina, I feel like while others may disagree, I feel like he is a wide receiver 2. Maybe would start the season as a flex, but I do see him ending the season as a solid wide receiver 2.
Yeah. He had great production last year, 95 catches, over 1,100 yards. The only touchdowns were lacking. And I think this year, touchdowns could go up with Sam Darnold leading the helm there. I think he'll easily move up to the wide receiver 2 territory. And
Yep.
DJ Moore, 3.
I'm not really sure how to feel about DJ Moore really. I guess he could be at the Robbie Anderson level, maybe, but I'd probably flex him at the start of the year. I'm not really sure how to deal with these wide receivers.
Me too. I would put him in flex.
Based on his draft position
Flex.
right now, he's gonna be. Yeah, based on his draft position right now, he's gonna be the wide receiver 2 for most teams. But he's a boomer bust type guy. He relies on the big play, and he doesn't get a lot of touchdowns. So there's quite a few concerns about him. Next up, we got Julio Jones on the Titans. Done.
A lot of people seem to be off the Julio train. They think he's old and injury prone. I think he's a low wide. No, I'd put him top of the wide receiver 2 team.
I personally would put him low wide receiver 1. I feel like people are just forgetting how good this guy is. He had one injury-riddled season last year, and I feel like we're forgetting about him. I mean, in an offense with A.J. Brown as well, I feel like they're just similar players. I feel like if A.J. Brown's a low wide receiver 1, there's no reason Julio shouldn't be 1 too.
Yeah, I'd take Julio over Allen Robinson maybe, but I'd still prefer A.J. Brown over Julio. More experience in the offense.
Yeah.
And,
Not
Younger.
low wide receiver 1.
Yeah,
I would
low
put
wide
him
receiver.
Yeah.
one.
Hey Don, changing your mind? It's you. All right, next up we got Calvin Ridley. Arjun, what you got to say about him?
Yeah, Calvin Ridley. For me, this shouldn't be a debate. He's an elite wide receiver 1 now with the loss of Julio Jones. I mean, even last year with Julio Jones, he was getting more looks from Matt Ryan. Now with Julio gone, I know Kyle Pitts is there, but Calvin Ridley's still the clear wide receiver 1. So I think he's gonna have a great year and be an elite wide receiver 1.
He finished last year as the wide receiver 4, which is already elite. And now that Julio's gone, sky's the limit for Calvin Ridley. Could be the wide receiver 1 this year. Who knows? Next up, we have Darius Slayton. And I think Darius Slayton is just like, he's at like the bench wide receiver waiver fodder here. Last year, he did have some fantasy relevance because of injuries, but this year, the Giants have brought in just so many more targets. Running Kenny Golladay, they drafted Kadarius Toney. And this is a make or break season for Daniel Jones, and I don't think Darius Slayton is going to have as much of a role in this offense. Saquon Barkley is also returning.
Mhm.
Sterling Shepard, Rohan.
For me, it's close. I mean, like similar to Slayton, bench, waiver wire. toss up. I mean, maybe he would get drafted, but then get dropped for me. But yeah.
I just toss him away or wire for it. Doesn't
Yeah.
really matter at this point. And so we got Amari Cooper. Street.
I really like Amari Cooper with the return of Dak Prescott. He's at the top of the wide receiver 2 list, I believe, and he can even enter the low end wide receiver 1. And he's nursing an injury, but I think by week 1, I feel like he's one of those set and forget guys.
Like that. Set it and forget it wide receiver. Anyone have anything to disagree with Amari Cooper?
No.
No.
Yeah. Next we got Michael Gallup, Vedant.
I think he's in the same like Sterling Shepard tier, just bench, waiver wire. He's on the edge. Maybe I'd take a chance on him early in the year, see what it is. But yeah, he's on that line. I'd put him in bench.
Yep.
Then we got Jalen Rager, Arjun.
Rager, I feel like to open up the year, I mean, he fits the mold of guys like Sterling Shepard, Michael Gallup, right on the edge of bench, waiver wire fodder. I think I'd probably, just so we can see what he's done, I'd probably start him as bench. But I mean, after a couple of weeks, it wouldn't surprise me if he's on the waiver wire in almost every league.
Yeah.
The Eagles drafted over Justin Jefferson last year. I don't know what they were thinking. Here we are now, Jalen Rager on the cusp of being a bust already. I got Terry McLaurin, and I think just Terry McLaurin, you can just toss him in this wide receiver 1 tier. He's Ryan Fitzpatrick is now the starting quarterback there in Washington, and he has had the tendency to just force feed the ball to one guy, and that one guy in this Redskin and this Washington offense is going to be Terry McLaurin. I think if you have him as your wide receiver 1, obviously that means you probably start with like 2 running backs or like Travis Kelce and a running back, something like that. So, and then if he's your wide receiver 1 at that point, that's great. And then if you didn't, maybe you get like Stephon Diggs and Terry McLaurin, and that's just unbelievable. I like Terry McLaurin this year. Next up, we got Devonta Smith. Rohan.
Smith, with the Eagles offense, I mean, Jalen Hurts, solid QB. They have some chemistry from Alabama. I would start him out as a flex.
Okay. I like that pick. He's got some upside in that Eagles offense.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Next up, we got Jalen Waddle. 3. What do you think about Jalen Waddle?
I'm not so sure about this guy. I'd start him out as a bench wide receiver, I guess, but he could move up into a flex. Definitely drafting him, though. That's for sure.
So, he's got some upside in the Dolphins. Vedant, you got Rashad Bateman.
I think he's also in that Jalen Waddle category. You definitely draft him. So I'll put him on the bench for like the first 2 weeks, but he could definitely become a flex.
Yep.
Arjun, you got Mike Williams.
Mike Williams, I mean, I guess you got to start him as a bench wide receiver, but I mean, every year Mike Williams is talked about as having a breakout season. So, I mean, maybe this could be the year, but I feel like we say this about him every year and it never really comes to fruition. But I'd start him as a bench wide receiver.
Yeah, he's one of the most talented wide receivers I've seen. Like his jump ball, like whenever you see him, he always catches the ball. Like if you need like a Hail Mary, you throw it to Mike Williams. Like we saw in the Chargers Saints game last year.
Yeah.
Now we have Jerry Jeudy, and I think Jerry Jeudy right now he's just a flex. You can't really put him if you have him on your bench. That's a phenomenal bench wide receiver you've got, but he's got some upside. There's not really much to it. Cortland Sutton's returning, so his targets might go down. His efficiency should go up. Teddy Bridgewater's there. Maybe he goes into the flex category. I could also see him moving up to wide receiver 2. Rohan, you get Michael Pittman.
Pittman, new QB. Wentz has got to throw to somebody. Got Hilton there, but he's inconsistent. I would put Pittman on my bench. And just maybe got a guy you fill in on a bye week, maybe. I don't know if you'll ever have him as a flex, though.
All right. And then Tree, you get Juju.
Juju is a flex. You could put him at wide receiver 2, I guess, on a good day, but no, he's basically just a flex. I have him more Claypool and those guys, but more interested in doing TikTok dances than improving his game. So,
yep.
And to end us out, we have T.Y. Hilton and Dant. What do you think about T.Y. Hilton?
I mean, this guy's fodder. There's really nothing more to say. He's old. Carson Wentz is coming in. Yeah, fodder.
He's washed at this point. He had
Yeah.
a couple good games last year, like a 3-game stretch. Otherwise, he was just not that good. All right. Well, that about wraps it up. We have ranked all of these wide receivers. Thanks for watching today. Look back at our other YouTube videos like Mock Draft, Breakouts Plus, and like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.